What happens when royalty collides with American daytime television in the most explosive way imaginable? It only took 38 seconds for Prince Harry to go from gracious guest to the most controversial figure ever to step foot on the View's stage. The studio lights were bright that morning. The audience was packed. Joy Behar sat at the famous table, her notes prepared, her coffee steaming. She had interviewed presidents, celebrities, world leaders, but nothing could have prepared her for what was about to unfold. Prince Harry walked onto the stage with that familiar smile. The audience erupted in applause. He waved, shook Joy's hand, and settled into his seat. Everything seemed normal. Everything seemed fine, but underneath the surface, tension was already building. Joy started with a simple question. "Welcome to The View. We're so happy to have you here. Let's talk about your new book. You've been very open about your struggles. What made you decide to share so much with the world?" Harry shifted in his seat. His jaw tightened. "Well, Joy, I think it's important that people understand the truth. My truth. Not the version that gets printed in your tabloids." The word "your" hung in the air like a warning sign. Joy, ever the professional, smiled and continued. "Our tabloids? I think the British press has been far more intrusive than anything we have here." "Really?" Harry's voice had an edge now. "Because I've seen what American media does. I've seen how you people twist everything. You people." The audience shifted uncomfortably. Joy's smile didn't waver, but her eyes sharpened. "I'm not sure what you mean by you people, but let's move forward. You've spoken about mental health quite a bit. That's admirable. What do you hope people take away from your message?" Harry leaned forward. "What I hope is that people like you stop pretending to care. You bring guests on, you ask them to open up, and then you use their pain for ratings. It's disgusting." The audience gasped. Joy set down her note cards. "Excuse me? I've been advocating for mental health awareness for decades, long before it was fashionable for royals to talk about their feelings on Netflix." That last word landed like a punch. Harry's face flushed red. "At least I'm being honest about my experiences. You sit here every day, judging people, making jokes at their expense. You're a bully with a microphone." Joy's co-hosts looked at each other, unsure whether to jump in. The producers in the control room were frozen. This was live television. There was no stopping it now. Joy took a breath. Her voice was calm, controlled, deadly serious. "I'm going to give you a chance to walk that back. You're a guest in this country, on this show, and you're going to sit here and call me a bully? After everything you've said about your own family on international television?" Harry stood up. Actually stood up. "My family? You want to talk about my family? You don't know anything about what I've been through. You sit in your comfortable studio, making your comfortable salary, judging people you've never met. You're exactly what's wrong with media today." The audience was silent now. Completely silent. You could hear the camera operators breathing. Joy stood up too. "Sit down, Harry." "No, I don't think I will. I came here thinking this would be a respectful conversation, but you're just like all the rest. You want drama. You want conflict. Well, congratulations, you got it." "I asked you about your book," Joy said, her voice rising now. "I asked you a perfectly reasonable question, and you decided to attack me personally. That's not how this works." Harry laughed. It was a bitter, harsh sound. "How this works. Let me tell you how this works. You invite someone on, you pretend to be their friend, and then you ambush them with gotcha questions. I've seen you do it 100 times. Joy's face was stone. "I have never ambushed a guest in my life. I prepare thoughtful questions. I treat people with respect. Something you clearly know nothing about." "Respect?" Harry's voice was loud now, echoing through the studio. "You want to lecture me about respect? You've spent years making jokes about my family, about my mother, and now you want to talk about respect?" Joy's eyes flashed. Don't you dare bring your mother into this. I have nothing but admiration for Princess Diana, but you don't get to use her memory as a shield for your own bad behavior. The other co-hosts finally tried to intervene. One of them reached for Harry's arm. Maybe we should take a break. Harry jerked his arm away. Don't touch me. I'm not staying here to be lectured by someone who's made a career out of tearing people down. Joy crossed her arms. Then leave. Nobody's forcing you to be here. But don't come on my show, insult me, insult my integrity, and expect me to sit here and take it with a smile. Harry pointed at her. Your integrity? That's rich. You're a hypocrite. Joy, you preach kindness and compassion, but the second someone challenges you, you show your true colors. The only person showing their true colors here is you, Joy shot back. You came on this show with an agenda. You wanted to create a scene. Well, you got your wish, but you don't get to play the victim here. Harry's hands were shaking. I'm not playing anything. I'm telling the truth. And the truth is that people like you are parasites. You feed off other people's pain. You build your careers on controversy and conflict. Joy took a step closer to the table. Get out. What? You heard me. Get out of my studio. This interview is over. Harry's face went pale, then red again. You can't kick me out. I'm a guest. You were a guest, Joy corrected. Now you're just someone who doesn't know how to behave in public. Security! Harry looked around wildly. This is unbelievable. This is exactly what I'm talking about. You can't handle the truth, so you silence people. 2 security guards appeared from the wings. They approached slowly, professionally. Joy nodded at them. Please escort our former guest out of the building. Harry backed away. Don't you touch me. I'll leave on my own. Then leave, Joy said flatly. And don't come back. Harry turned to the audience. You're all witnessing this, right? You see what's happening here? She invites me on, attacks me, and then throws me out when I defend myself. One of the co-hosts finally spoke up. Harry, you called her a bully and a parasite on live television. What did you think was going to happen? Harry spun around. I thought I was going to have an honest conversation. But clearly, wait, that's not possible here. Joy sat back down. She straightened her papers. We're going to commercial. When we come back, we'll discuss what just happened and why civility matters, even when you disagree with someone. Harry was still standing there, still fuming. Civility? You don't know the meaning of the word. Commercial! The director shouted. We're going to commercial. But Harry wasn't done. You know what your problem is, Joy. You've been doing this so long. You've forgotten what it's like to be vulnerable. You've forgotten what it's like to have feelings. Joy looked up at him. Her voice was quiet now, but it cut through the chaos like a knife. My problem is that I wasted 20 minutes of my life trying to have a conversation with someone who came here to throw a tantrum. Now get out before I have you physically removed. The security guards moved in. Harry held up his hands. Fine, I'm going. But everyone's going to hear about this. Everyone's going to know what kind of person you really are. Joy didn't even look at him anymore. She was shuffling her papers, checking her makeup in a compact mirror. I'm sure they will. You're very good at telling your version of events. That was it. That was the final straw. Harry lunged toward the table. The security guards caught him immediately, holding him back. He wasn't trying to hurt anyone, but his face was twisted with rage. Let me go, he shouted. I just want to tell her what I really think. You've said enough, one of the guards said firmly. They were guiding him backward now, toward the exit. Harry was still yelling. This is censorship, and this is exactly what I've been fighting against. You can't silence me. Joy finally looked up. I'm not silencing you. I'm just not giving you a platform to have a meltdown on my show. There's a difference. The audience was recording everything on their phones now. Flashes were going off. People were whispering, gasping, pointing. This was the most dramatic moment in The View's history, and everyone knew it. Harry was almost at the exit now, still struggling against the guard's gentle but firm grip. "You'll regret this, Joy. You'll regret treating me like this." Joy's response was ice cold. "The only thing I regret is not ending this interview sooner." And then he was gone. The studio doors closed behind him. The audience sat in stunned silence. Joy's co-hosts stared at her, then at each other, then at the cameras. Joy took a sip of her coffee. Her hand was steady. "Well," she said to the camera, "that was certainly unexpected." One of the co-hosts laughed nervously. "Are we still going to commercial?" "We are," Joy confirmed. "And when we come back, we need to talk about what just happened, because that was not okay." The director counted down. "And we're clear!" The moment the cameras cut, the studio erupted. Everyone was talking at once. The audience was buzzing. The crew was replaying the footage. Joy sat at the table, still calm, still collected. A producer rushed over. "Joy, are you okay?" She nodded. "I'm fine, but we need to figure out how we're addressing this when we come back from commercial." "What do we say?" Joy looked at the empty chair where Harry had been sitting. "We say the truth. We invited him here for a respectful conversation about his book and his advocacy work. He chose to turn it into a personal attack. And when someone attacks you on your own show, you have every right to ask them to leave." The co-hosts gathered around her. "That was insane," one of them said. "I've never seen anything like that." "Neither have I," Joy admitted. "And I've been doing this a long time." Another co-host touched her shoulder. "You handled it perfectly. You gave him chances to calm down, to redirect. He chose not to take them." Joy smiled. "I tried. I really did. But at a certain point, you have to draw a line." The director called out, "30 seconds back from commercial." Everyone scrambled to their positions. Joy checked her notes one more time. She took a deep breath. This was going to be the most important segment of the day. Maybe the most important segment of the year. The cameras came back on. Joy looked directly into the lens. "Welcome back to The View. As you just saw, our interview with Prince Harry ended abruptly. I want to take a moment to explain what happened and why." She paused, choosing her words carefully. "When we invite guests on this show, we prepare thoughtful questions. We do our research. We try to create an environment where people feel comfortable sharing their stories. That's what we attempted to do today." Her co-hosts nodded in agreement. Joy continued. "But from the very first question, our guest chose to be confrontational. He made personal attacks. He questioned my integrity and my intentions. And when I pushed back, he escalated." The audience was listening intently now. "I want to be clear about something," Joy said. "I have enormous sympathy for anyone who struggles with mental health, who deals with family issues, who faces public scrutiny. Those are real challenges. But that doesn't give anyone the right to come on this show and verbally attack the host." One of the co-hosts jumped in. "You were so patient with him. You gave him multiple opportunities to reset the conversation." "I did," Joy agreed, "because I wanted to believe we could have a productive dialogue. But it became clear very quickly that wasn't his intention." The other co-host added, "And when you finally asked him to leave, he refused. He continued to escalate. That's when security had to step in." Joy nodded. "I've been doing this job for a long time. I've had tense interviews. I've had disagreements with guests. But I've never had someone come on this show and behave the way he did today." The audience applauded. They were on Joy's side. They had witnessed everything. Joy raised a hand to quiet them. "I don't take any pleasure in what happened. I wish things had gone differently. But I also won't apologize for standing up for myself and for this show." Another round of applause, louder this time. "We invited him here in good faith," Joy continued. "We wanted to talk about his book, his advocacy, his experiences. Those are important topics. But instead, we got accusations and insults." One of the co-hosts asked, "Do you think he came here planning to do this? Or did something set him off?" Joy considered the question. "I honestly don't know. Maybe he was having a bad day. Maybe he was triggered by something I said, though I can't imagine what. Or maybe he wanted to create a viral moment. Whatever the reason, it doesn't excuse his behavior." The discussion continued for another several minutes. The co-hosts shared their perspectives. They talked about the importance of respectful dialogue. They discussed what happens when public figures use their platform irresponsibly. Through it all, Joy remained composed. She didn't gloat. She didn't mock. She simply told her side of the story, calmly and clearly. When the segment finally ended, when the show cut to commercial again, Joy leaned back in her chair. She was exhausted. The adrenaline was wearing off. "You did great," the producer told her. "You handled that like a pro." Joy smiled weakly. "I just did what anyone would do. You can't let someone disrespect you like that, especially on your own show." The rest of the episode continued as planned. They discussed other topics. They laughed. They debated. They moved on. But everyone knew that the Harry incident was what people would remember. It was what would dominate the news cycle for days to come. In the dressing room after the show, Joy finally let herself relax. She kicked off her shoes, took off her earrings, wiped off her stage makeup. Her phone was exploding with messages. Producers from other networks, journalists, friends. Everyone wanted to know what had happened, what she was thinking, how she was feeling. She ignored most of them. She was tired. She just wanted to go home. But she did take a moment to watch the footage on her phone. Someone had already posted it online. The views were climbing by the second. Thousands, then tens of thousands, then hundreds of thousands. She watched herself stay calm while Harry spiraled. She watched herself give him chances to recover. She watched herself finally draw the line and ask him to leave. And she felt proud. Not proud of the conflict, but proud of how she had handled it. She had been professional. She had been fair. And when pushed too far, she had been strong. That's what mattered. Not the drama, not the headlines, but the fact that she had stood her ground. The next morning, the video had millions of views. It was on every news site, every social media platform, every talk show. People were dissecting every word, every gesture, every facial expression. Some people criticized Joy for not being more accommodating. They said she should have let Harry speak his mind, that she was too defensive, too quick to anger. But most people saw it differently. They saw a professional woman being attacked on her own show. They saw her try repeatedly to redirect the conversation. They saw her finally stand up for herself when it became clear that civility wasn't possible. And they applauded her for it. Because at the end of the day, respect goes both ways. You can't demand to be heard if you're not willing to listen. You can't expect courtesy if you're not willing to give it. Harry had learned that lesson the hard way, and Joy had taught it to him in front of millions of viewers. That's the power of live television. There's nowhere to hide. No editing, no second takes, no do-overs. What you see is what you get. And what everyone saw that day was a host who knew her worth, who defended her dignity, and who refused to be bullied on her own stage. It was a moment that would define both of their legacies. For Harry, it was a spectacular public meltdown, a reminder that privilege doesn't excuse bad behavior, that titles don't grant immunity from consequences. For Joy, it was vindication, proof that after all these years, she could still handle anything thrown at her, that she could stay calm in chaos, that she could draw boundaries and enforce them, even when it was uncomfortable. The interview that was supposed to be about mental health and advocacy became a masterclass in standing your ground. The conversation that should have been respectful and enlightening turned into a spectacle that no one would ever forget. And through it all, Joy Behar proved exactly why she had been at that table for so long, because she was tough, she was fair, she was unflappable, and she would not be disrespected in her own house. Not by royalty, not by anyone.